She traded our life for her boss's penthouse. Asked for a divorce over Sunday brunch. I said okay. That was her first mistake. Because while she was busy climbing into his bed, I was busy uncovering what she'd really been hiding. Then I met his wife. And at his company gala, I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You're a lucky man. Your wife is extraordinary." He nearly broke his champagne glass. The real game was only getting started. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 46 years old, and 5 weeks ago I found out my wife has been sleeping with her boss for the better part of a year. I didn't lose my mind. I didn't throw furniture. I did what any man with patience and a long memory would do. I watched. I waited. I gathered every scrap of proof I could find. And then I made my move. But let me start from the beginning. The brunch place she picked was in Lincoln Park, one of those spots with $12 orange juice and reclaimed wood everything. Rachel always chose places like this when she had bad news. Pretty surroundings to cushion ugly words. She was stirring her mimosa without drinking it. That told me everything. "We need to talk, Marcus." I set down my fork. Looked at her. My wife was 41. Still the kind of beautiful that made strangers glance twice. But that morning something was off. Something guilty lived behind her eyes. "I'm listening." She took a breath like she was jumping off a cliff. "I've been seeing someone." "From work?" "It's Dominic. Dominic Hale. CEO of Hale Development Group, the real estate empire where Rachel ran the marketing division. 53 years old. Married for 22 years to some cardiologist. Net worth somewhere around 500 million. The kind of man who shook your hand and made you feel like he was doing you a favor. I should have felt the floor drop out. Instead, I felt nothing. A cold, clear nothing. Because I already knew. I'd known for 4 weeks and 2 days, ever since I came home from a job site early and found her phone unlocked on the kitchen island. Messages from someone saved as D lighting up the screen. The things written in those messages weren't subtle. "How long?" I asked. "Does that matter?" "Yes." She flinched. "About 10 months. 10 months. 10 months of lying to my face. 10 months of kissing me goodbye while already thinking about him. 10 months of our kids, Ethan and Lily, sitting across the dinner table from a mother living an entirely different life. Are you in love with him?" Her face did something complicated. Guilt, defiance, confusion, all tangled together. "I don't know what I feel. When I'm with him, I feel like I matter, like I'm somebody. With you, I feel like I'm just the woman who handles the bills while you build your buildings." She paused. "I want a divorce, Marcus." There it was. Delivered between the eggs, Benedict, and the check. "Okay," I said. Her eyes went wide. "Okay? That's it? What would you like me to do, Rachel? Get on my knees? You've made up your mind." I signaled the waiter. $412 for the brunch that ended my marriage. I paid the whole thing because that's what I'd always done. Taken care of everything while she took me for granted. We drove home in silence. In the driveway, she turned to me. "I'll stay at my sister's for a few days. Probably best." After she left, I went to my office and opened the locked drawer in my desk. Inside was a folder. Not thick, but growing. Screenshots of messages. Credit card statements with hotel charges she thought I hadn't noticed. Calendar entries that didn't match her supposed late meetings. I'd been building this file for a month. I wasn't angry. I was strategic. There's a difference. My attorney, Frank Kowalski, had offices on the 42nd floor of a building in the Loop. I'd worked with him on contracts for years. Commercial real estate, licensing agreements, boring stuff. When I called him the morning after Rachel's confession, he cleared his entire afternoon. "Marcus," he said, sliding a folder across his desk. "Illinois is an equitable distribution state. No prenup. 17 years of marriage. This gets complicated fast." I opened the folder. Our house in Evanston. Joint savings. My income from the architecture firm I'd built from nothing. Her stock options and bonuses from Hale Development. 17 years reduced to columns and rows. "How aggressive do you want to be?" Frank asked. "I want what's fair. But I also want to know exactly who I'm dealing with." "Dominic Hale. Tell me everything." Frank pulled something up on his screen. Real estate developer. Philanthropist. Married to Dr. Vanessa Hale, cardiologist. She gave up a research fellowship at Northwestern when his company went public. Word on the street is Hale's had affairs before. He's discreet but not discreet enough. Does his wife know? Hard to say. She keeps a very polished public image. But people talk. I leaned back. What if I wanted to meet her? Frank raised an eyebrow. Vanessa Hale? Why? Two people whose spouses are involved. Just a conversation. Marcus, that's dangerous territory. Maybe. Or maybe it's the smartest thing I've ever done. I went home and found Ethan, my 16-year-old, in the kitchen. He was hunched over his laptop, his jaw tight. He looked up when I walked in, and his expression was the kind of guarded that breaks a father's heart. Mom called. He said flatly. She wants to do dinner this weekend. Talk about the transition. What did you tell her? That I'd think about it. He paused. Dad, I'm not stupid. I know what's going on. I sat down across from him. How much do you know? Enough. I heard you guys arguing through the walls. I've seen the way she acts when her phone buzzes. And last week I found her tablet unlocked. He turned his laptop toward me. On the screen were screenshots. Messages between Rachel and someone she called D. Dates. Times. Hotels. None of it was ambiguous. My chest tightened. Ethan, I'm sorry you saw that. Are you getting divorced? Yes. He nodded slowly. Good. She doesn't deserve you. His jaw clenched. Or us. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Vanessa Hale, cardiologist. Gave up her research career for her husband's ambitions. Living in the shadow of a man who collected women the way other people collected watches. I found her Instagram. Private account. Profile picture showed a woman with sharp, intelligent eyes standing in front of some modern sculpture. Her bio read, physician, architecture enthusiast, believer in second acts. Architecture enthusiast. I almost laughed. I sent a follow request. Then I checked her public posts on Facebook. A recent check-in at an architecture walking tour in the River North neighborhood. A shared article about preserving Chicago's historic theaters. A photo from a Frank Lloyd Wright exhibition the previous weekend. A woman who'd lost herself in someone else's story. Just like me. My phone buzzed. Vanessa Hale had accepted my follow request. I smiled. Game on. The Architecture Foundation hosted a public talk that Thursday evening about adaptive reuse, converting old industrial buildings into community spaces. I found it through Vanessa's Instagram. She'd posted about it 2 days earlier. I arrived at 7 wearing a dark blazer over a gray Henley. The venue was a renovated warehouse on the near west side, exposed brick and steel beams, the kind of space I spent my career reimagining. The crowd was a mix of architects, urban planners, and people who genuinely cared about the built environment. I spotted Vanessa near the front, studying a display of renovation plans mounted on the wall. Dark hair pulled back. A simple navy blazer over a white blouse. She was alone, and the way she examined those blueprints told me she actually understood what she was looking at. I walked over and stood beside her, looking at the same plans. The cantilever on that mezzanine is ambitious, I said. Beautiful, but ambitious. She turned, surprised, then smiled. A real smile, not a rehearsed one. You think it'll hold? Depends on the engineer. But the architect clearly has vision. That's a diplomatic answer. She extended her hand, Vanessa Hale. Marcus Webb. I shook her hand. Firm grip. Steady eyes. I'm an architect. Residential and commercial. I actually follow you on Instagram. Your posts about Chicago architecture are the most informed I've seen from anyone outside the profession. She laughed. That's a low bar in a city full of people who think the bean is the pinnacle of design. But thank you. She gestured at the display. Are you here for the talk or the networking? The talk. I've been working on a project converting an old meatpacking plant into affordable housing. Adaptive reuse is kind of my obsession. Mine too. Her expression shifted. Something wistful. I did a year of architectural history before medical school. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd kept going down that path. What made you switch? My husband's opinion. He thought medicine was more practical, more prestigious. She caught herself, like she'd said too much. Sorry, that's a lot for a first conversation. Not at all. I think the best conversations start with honesty. We spent the next hour walking through the exhibition together. Vanessa had a way of seeing buildings that reminded me why I'd fallen in love with architecture in the first place. She talked about negative space in design, how what you leave empty matters as much as what you fill. I miss this, she said quietly. Standing in front of a model of a converted church, having conversations about things that matter, about beauty and function and purpose, instead of charity galas and board dinners and being someone's plus one. That sounds lonely. She looked at me. Really looked at me. It is. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. We need to discuss the house and the kids. Tomorrow? I silenced it. I'm sorry, I said to Vanessa. Where were we? Talking about loneliness. Though I think we were both being too polite to name it. What would you call it? Disappearing. Piece by piece, year by year. You give up your interests, your ambitions, your voice. Until one day you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person staring back. The honesty hit me like a gust of wind. Can I buy you coffee? I asked. There's a place 2 blocks east. We can keep talking without an audience. Vanessa smiled. I'd like that. The coffee shop was narrow and dim, the kind of place where conversations felt like confessions. She ordered a cortado. I got black coffee. We sat in a corner booth and the performance of the event fell away. I should tell you something, I said. I didn't find that architecture talk by accident. I followed you on Instagram because I wanted to meet you. Vanessa's expression didn't change. I know. You know? Marcus, I'm a physician. I diagnose things for a living. An architect I've never heard of suddenly follows me, shows up at an event I posted about, and happens to be charming and knowledgeable. She sipped her cortado. I looked you up during the intermission. Partner at Webb and Associates. Moderate success. And married to Rachel Webb, Vice President of Marketing at Hale Development Group. My husband's company. My chest tightened. I can explain. Please. I took a breath. 4 weeks ago, I discovered my wife has been having an affair with your husband. She told me 5 days ago she wants a divorce. I spent those weeks trying to understand the situation. That's what led me to you. Vanessa set down her cup. Her hands were steady, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. How long? 10 months, according to Rachel. 10 months. She exhaled, almost a laugh but with no humor in it. That's actually impressive by Dominic's standards. Most of his affairs burn out in 3 or 4. You knew. I've known about Dominic's infidelity for years. Not always the names, but the pattern. The late meetings that smelled like perfume. The business trips that didn't add up. Hotel charges on accounts he assumed I'd never check. She looked straight at me. I hired a private investigator 11 months ago. He's documented 5 different women Dominic has been involved with over the past 3 years. Your wife is number 4 on the list. 5 women. The scale of it made my stomach turn. Why did you stay? Because leaving meant admitting I'd wasted 22 years on a man who never saw me as a person. Because we have a daughter, Sophia, who's 17, and I wanted to shield her. Because I traded my research career for his success, and I was terrified there'd be nothing left of me if I walked away. She paused. But mostly because I was afraid. I reached across the table and took her hand. She didn't pull away. Vanessa, I came here tonight thinking I'd use you. Get information about Dominic. Maybe rattle him by befriending his wife. Cold, strategic revenge. I paused. But sitting here, I realize you're not a chess piece. You're a person who deserves so much better than what you've been given. She squeezed my hand. So do you, Marcus. We sat there in that narrow coffee shop, 2 people shattered by the same 2 people. Finding something neither of us expected. Not love. Not yet. But recognition. The quiet comfort of knowing you're not alone. I want him to lose everything, Vanessa said softly. Not just money or reputation. I want Dominic to feel what it's like to be erased by someone you trusted. Then let's help each other, I said. No more secrets. We build our cases together. We support each other through the divorces. And we make sure they both understand exactly what they threw away. Partners? Partners. We exchanged real phone numbers. As we left the coffee shop, Vanessa turned to me. Thank you for being honest tonight, even about your original intentions. Thank you for not walking away when you figured out who I was. Marcus, I stopped running from hard truths the day I hired that investigator. I'm done pretending. I watched her get into her car and drive away, and I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Ethan was awake when I got home. He was sitting at the kitchen counter, his laptop open, wearing an expression I'd never seen on him before. Determination mixed with fury. "Dad, sit down. I have something to show you." He turned the laptop toward me. On the screen was a folder labeled Mom. Inside were dozens of files. Audio recordings, screenshots, documents. Each labeled with a date, spanning 14 months. "What is this?" "Recordings." His voice was steady, but his hands weren't. Mom's phone calls. Conversations with Dominic. Calls to her friend Lauren about Dominic. Planning sessions about when and where to meet. "I started recording about a year ago." "How?" "I set up an app on her tablet. It activates when certain keywords are mentioned." "I'm good with computers, Dad. You know that." "Ethan, this could be a legal problem." "Maybe. But it's also 62 hours of proof." He scrolled through the files. Mom talking about how Dominic makes her feel powerful. How she's planning to leave you once she secures a better settlement. How she's been moving money for almost 3 years. Getting ready. 3 years. She'd been planning her exit for 3 years. "There's more." Ethan's voice hardened. "Bank records. She's been transferring money from the joint account to a private one. Small amounts, 200 here, 300 there. It adds up to almost $118,000 over 3 years. The betrayal kept peeling back in layers, each one worse than the last. She took that money and put some of it into a crypto account," Ethan continued. "But the market crashed 8 months ago. She lost about 40,000, tried to recover it, lost another 15. She's been scrambling ever since. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I kept hoping I was wrong, that there was some explanation. But then she sat you down at that brunch and asked for a divorce, and I realized I'd been protecting the wrong parent." He closed the laptop. "I'm done protecting her, Dad." I walked around the counter and hugged my son. He was almost my height now, 16 going on 40. "Thank you. But Ethan, I need you to let me carry this." "You shouldn't have to." It stopped being just your problem when Lily started crying herself to sleep. She asked me last night if Mommy left because she was bad. "She's 9, Dad. She thinks this is her fault." That hit me like a wrecking ball. "Where's Lily now?" "Sleeping." I read to her until she passed out. She wanted the one about the rabbit who builds a new house after a storm. I think she's trying to tell us something. I called Vanessa that night after both kids were asleep. "Marcus." Her voice was warm, grounding. "My son has 62 hours of recordings. Rachel discussing the affair, planning the divorce settlement, hiding money. $118,000 moved to a private account over 3 years. And she gambled a chunk of it on cryptocurrency and lost." Silence. Then, "That's substantial. Vanessa, my 9-year-old daughter thinks her mother left because she was a bad kid." "Oh, Marcus." Her voice broke slightly. "I'm so sorry. What do we do with all this? I don't want to weaponize my son's pain, but I can't let them walk away clean. My investigator has evidence of Dominic using company funds to finance his affairs for at least 4 years. Hotels, jewelry, first-class flights. That's not just infidelity. That's embezzlement." "How much?" "North of $370,000. And here's the piece that matters. Dominic promoted Rachel 8 months ago. Gave her a compensation package worth about $250,000 in stock options and bonuses. The timing lines up exactly with their affair. That's a conflict of interest. It's fraud. And my father sits on the Hale Development Board. He has for 15 years. If the board finds out Dominic has been looting the company to fund his personal life, they'll remove him. The shareholders will demand it." I thought about Lily crying herself to sleep. About Ethan carrying 62 hours of his mother's betrayal on his shoulders. About 3 years of systematic lies. "Let's do it," I said. "Let's show them both what consequences look like." "Partners," Vanessa said. "Partners." The mediation happened on a Tuesday morning in a conference room that smelled like leather and floor polish. I sat across from Rachel and her attorney, a sharp woman named Diane Prescott. "My client requests primary physical custody of both children," Diane began, "with Mr. Webb receiving standard visitation. Additionally, temporary spousal support of $9,000 monthly and continued residence in the marital home." I didn't blink. Frank had prepared me. I'm requesting primary custody, I said, looking directly at Rachel. Both children want to live with me. Ethan is 16. His preference carries legal weight. Lily is 9 and refuses to be separated from her brother. Rachel's face went red. You've been poisoning them against me. I haven't said a single negative word about you to our children. But they have eyes, Rachel, and ears. This is absurd, Diane cut in. Mrs. Webb has been the primary caregiver throughout this marriage. Has she? Frank said mildly. He slid a document across the table. School records show Mr. Webb attended 91% of parent-teacher conferences. Medical records show he took the children to 84% of their doctor and dentist appointments. He coached Ethan's soccer team for 4 years. He volunteers at Lily's school every Friday morning. Mrs. Webb was building her career. Mr. Webb was raising their children. Rachel's attorney scanned the documents, her confidence visibly shrinking. Furthermore, Frank continued, we have evidence that Mrs. Webb has been systematically transferring marital funds to a private account, $118,000 over approximately 3 years. A significant portion was subsequently lost in speculative cryptocurrency investments without Mr. Webb's knowledge or consent. The color drained from Rachel's face. How did you? It doesn't matter how we know, I said. What matters is that you've been planning this for years, stealing from our family to build your escape hatch. And when your investments went sideways, you accelerated the divorce timeline. Diane held up a hand. We need a recess. Take your time, Frank said. In the hallway, Frank turned to me. That rattled them. Her attorney wasn't prepared for the financial documentation. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. Dominic just received a letter from the board requesting an emergency audit. My father made sure they got copies of the expense reports. He's in a panic. I smiled. Everything was falling into place. When we reconvened, Rachel looked like she'd been crying. Diane's expression was tight and controlled. My client is prepared to agree to joint custody, Diane said. 50-50 split. She'll withdraw her spousal support request if Mr. Webb agrees not to pursue the matter of the private account. No, I said. Everyone looked at me. Garrett Frank started. No. I looked at Rachel. You don't get to steal from this family, lie to our children, shatter everything we built, and then negotiate like you're closing a business deal. I want primary custody. School weeks with me. Alternating weekends with you. And every dollar goes back into the joint account. Or I pursue formal charges. You wouldn't. Rachel whispered. Watch me. I leaned forward. I spent 17 years making myself smaller so you could take up more space. I supported your career. I raised our kids. I forgave 100 small betrayals because I thought we were partners. I stood up. But we were never partners, were we? I was just the foundation you built on until you found a taller building. Well, I'm done being your foundation. You made your choice. Now live with what comes after. I walked out. Frank hurried after me. Marcus, that was a risk. I know. But I'm done playing defense. Dominic Hale's emergency board meeting happened 4 days later. Vanessa called me that evening, her voice electric. It's done. The board voted to suspend Dominic pending a full financial investigation. The audit found $372,000 in company funds diverted to personal expenses over 4 years. Hotels, jewelry, trips. All for his affairs. $372,000. I let out a low whistle, and they found Rachel's promotion. The compensation package he approved without board authorization. They're revoking her stock options and demanding she return her signing bonus. How's Dominic handling it? He called me screaming. Said I destroyed him. I told him he destroyed himself 10 affairs ago. I just kept the receipts. How are you? Free. Her voice softened. For the first time in 22 years, I feel free. The divorce finalized 6 weeks later. I got primary custody. Rachel got alternating weekends. The money was returned, minus what she'd lost gambling on crypto, which would be deducted from her share of the house sale. My firm and its earnings remained mine. Her now worthless stock options remained hers. Ethan took it calmly. Lily cried, then asked if she could redecorate her room. Kids find their way through grief in the strangest, most beautiful ways. Vanessa's divorce took longer. Dominic fought everything. hired a team of lawyers who billed more per hour than most people earn in a week. But the evidence was a mountain he couldn't climb over. In the end, he settled. Vanessa got the lakefront condo, full custody of Sophia during breaks from college, and a settlement that ensured she'd never need to depend on anyone again. 2 weeks after Dominic's suspension, Hale Development hosted its annual gala, a black tie affair at a hotel on Michigan Avenue. The board decided to proceed with the event to signal stability. Vanessa had 2 invitations. "Are you sure about this?" I asked as we stood outside the venue. She looked stunning in a deep red dress. Dominic had always told her red was too bold for her. Too much attention. Tonight, she wore it like armor. "I'm sure," she said, taking my arm. "He needs to see that I'm not hiding, that I'm not ashamed." Inside, the room glittered with Chicago's elite. Developers, politicians, investors, all orbiting the bar with champagne glasses and careful smiles. I spotted Rachel across the room, standing near Dominic in an emerald dress, laughing at something someone said, playing the role she'd traded her family for. She saw me first. Her smile died. Then she saw Vanessa on my arm, and her face went white. Dominic followed her gaze. When he registered his wife walking in with the husband of his mistress, his expression cycled through shock, confusion, and cold fury in about 2 seconds. He strode toward us. Rachel trailed behind, looking sick. "Vanessa." His voice was low, barely controlled. "What the hell are you doing?" "Attending a gala," Vanessa said smoothly. "I was invited. You remember Marcus Webb? Accomplished architect. We've been consulting on a project together." Dominic's eyes narrowed at me. "Webb, your wife works for me." "Worked?" I corrected. Past tense, I believe. The recognition hit him. Then the calculation. He looked between Vanessa and me, connecting every dot. "You two are friends?" Vanessa finished. "We met at an architecture event. Discovered we share quite a lot. Common interests. Common experiences." She smiled. "Common betrayals." Rachel stepped forward. "Marcus, can we talk? Alone? I don't think there's anything to say that Vanessa and Dominic can't hear. We're all adults here. Please." Desperation cracked through her voice. "Fine. 2 minutes." Rachel pulled me to a quiet alcove. "What are you doing with her?" "Having a life. Building a friendship." "What does it look like?" "It looks like revenge." "Revenge?" I almost laughed. "Rachel, I don't need revenge. You and Dominic are doing a spectacular job of destroying yourselves. I'm just making sure I have the best seat in the house." The board suspended him, Marcus. "They're pressing charges." I heard. "Did you do this?" "Did you and Vanessa?" Dominic embezzled $372,000 from his own company. He did this to himself. Vanessa and I just made sure the right people saw the evidence. Her face crumbled. "Marcus, please. I made a mistake." A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. What you did was a 3-year operation. You moved money. You lied to our children. You planned your exit while smiling at me over breakfast every morning. That's not a mistake, Rachel. That's a choice. I walked away and left her standing there. When I reached Vanessa, she was chatting with a gallery owner about an upcoming exhibition. She looked alive, radiant, nothing like the invisible wife she described. Dominic appeared again. His face was flushed, his fists clenched at his sides. "Stay away from my wife," he hissed at me. "Your wife?" Vanessa turned to him. "We're getting divorced, Dominic. Or did that slip your mind between the affairs and the fraud charges?" "Vanessa." "Not here. No, this is exactly the right place. All your investors, your partners, your board members. Watching you realize you've lost control of everything." She stepped closer to him. "I know about the accounts, Dominic. I know about every hotel room, every piece of jewelry that wasn't for me. I know about all 5 of them, and soon everyone in this room will too." Dominic's face went from red to gray. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Vanessa turned to me with a smile that could light up Michigan Avenue. "Marcus, shall we get some air? It's getting rather stuffy in here." "Absolutely," I said, offering my arm. As we walked toward the exit, I leaned close enough for Dominic to hear. "You're a lucky man, Dominic. Your wife is extraordinary. Truly extraordinary." I felt his eyes burning into my back the entire way out. Could feel his rage from 20 feet away like heat off asphalt. Outside, Vanessa squeezed my arm. That felt incredible. You were magnificent in there. She kissed my cheek. This is just the beginning, Marcus. Wait until they see what comes next. Dominic Hale's removal as CEO became official 3 weeks later. The financial audit uncovered the full scope, $372,000 in misappropriated funds across 4 years. Criminal charges were filed by the state. Rachel was terminated that same week. Her promotion was voided. Stock options revoked. Signing bonus demanded back with interest. Vanessa called me the night it all came down. "How do you feel?" I asked. Like I just performed open-heart surgery on my own life. Painful, but necessary. She paused. "How are the kids?" "Ethan's angry, but processing it. Lily asked me yesterday if we could get a dog. I think that's her way of saying she's ready to love something new. I'd like to meet them," Vanessa said. "If you think they're ready." The suggestion caught me off guard. "You want to meet my kids?" "I want to know the people who matter most to you." I talked to Ethan first. He listened, nodded, and said, "If she makes you happy, I'll give her a chance. But if she hurts you, I won't be polite about it." Fair enough. Vanessa came for dinner on a Saturday. She brought pastries from a bakery in Andersonville and a small sketchbook for Lily. "I heard she likes to draw," Vanessa said at the door. Ethan came down the stairs and sized her up with the protective intensity only a teenage son can manage. Vanessa met his gaze directly. "Ethan, your dad tells me you're interested in computer science and digital design. That's a powerful combination. He talks about me? He talks about how you held this family together when it was falling apart. That's not something most adults can do, let alone a 16-year-old. Ethan's guard dropped a fraction. "Thanks." Lily burst into the kitchen like a small hurricane. "Hi, are you Dad's friend? He said someone nice was coming." Vanessa crouched to her level. "I'm Vanessa, and I brought you something." She held out the sketchbook. "Your dad says you're an artist. Every artist needs a good sketchbook." Lily's eyes went wide. "It has thick pages. For watercolors. If you want, I can show you a technique I learned at a museum once." "Yes." Lily grabbed Vanessa's hand and pulled her toward the kitchen table. Ethan watched them go, then looked at me. "She's not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone more calculating." "She seems real." "She is. We had dinner together. Nothing fancy. Roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, salad." Vanessa asked Lily about her art projects and actually listened to the answers. She asked Ethan about his college plans, his coding projects, his taste in music. She was present, engaged, genuine. After Lily went to bed and Ethan disappeared to his room, Vanessa and I sat on the back porch with glasses of wine, listening to the crickets. "Your kids are remarkable," she said. "Ethan's fierce. Lily's pure light. You've done something right, Marcus. They're tougher than I give them credit for." Vanessa set down her glass. "I need to tell you something. Dominic's lawyers contacted mine yesterday. He wants to fast-track the divorce. He's offering me the lakefront place, full custody of Sophia, and a lump sum. In exchange, I sign an NDA about his affairs and agree not to cooperate with the criminal investigation. That's a lot. It's silence money. He's trying to buy my complicity. And I turned it down." Her voice was firm. "No amount of money gives me back 22 years of being invisible. I want justice. Real, public, undeniable justice. I want Dominic to face a courtroom. And I want Rachel to understand that you can't blow up a family and walk away clean." I took her hand. "Then let's make sure they don't." 6 months passed. Dominic was convicted on 4 counts of embezzlement, sentenced to 20 months in federal prison. Rachel testified against him as part of a plea arrangement to avoid charges of her own, but it didn't save her reputation. Last I heard, she was freelancing from her sister's spare bedroom, struggling to get anyone in Chicago to return her calls. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt something quieter. Closure. Vanessa reopened her medical research. Partnered with Northwestern on a cardiac study she'd abandoned 2 decades earlier. She also started curating small art exhibitions on the side, pairing emerging artists with spaces I helped her redesign. Our worlds overlapped in ways that felt natural, not forced. One evening, 9 months after Rachel had asked for that divorce over brunch, Vanessa and I stood in a gallery space in Wicker Park. I designed the renovation. She curated the inaugural exhibition. Our kids were there. Ethan was talking to one of the artists about digital techniques. Sophia, home from college, was deep in conversation with an art critic. Lily was sketching in the corner, capturing the room in her notebook the way she captured everything that mattered to her. Lily tugged my sleeve. "Dad, is Vanessa your girlfriend?" I looked at Vanessa, who was smiling. "She's someone very important to me. Is that okay?" Lily nodded seriously. "She's nice. And she doesn't look at her phone when I'm talking to her. Mom always looked at her phone." Ethan overhead and rolled his eyes. "Just don't be weird about it, Dad." That night, driving home with Ethan and Lily asleep in the backseat, I let myself think about Rachel for the last time. She'd wanted me to crumble. Instead, I'd found my footing. She'd wanted me to beg. Instead, I'd rebuilt. I thought about Vanessa, about the life we were carefully, deliberately building. About Ethan, who'd carried too much too young but was turning into someone extraordinary. About Lily, who still believed the world was mostly good and mostly beautiful, and who was right. I thought about a line Vanessa had said to me in that coffee shop the night we met. "We gave up pieces of ourselves to make other people comfortable. And now we're not sure how to get those pieces back." I knew how now. You don't get them back. You build new ones. Better ones. From the wreckage, from the honesty, from the terrifying freedom of finally being seen by someone who actually wants to look. Rachel had tried to erase me. But you can't erase a man who's learned to take up space. The best revenge was never destroying her. It was standing in a gallery I designed, beside a woman who saw me, surrounded by children who chose me, living a life so full it left no room for bitterness. That was the victory. Quiet, permanent, and entirely mine.